of Iran's rulers, the declarations of the Iranian president, and the trouble the regime is causing throughout the region, including direct involvement in the killing of Americans. Our country and the entire international community cannot stand by as a terror-supporting state fulfills its most aggressive ambitions.
Welcome back to Hardball. The Bush administration is, as we were just hearing, ratcheting up its rhetoric against Iran, and Turkey's threatening to send troops into northern Iraq. Has the war created the worst-case scenario that people predicted if we went into Iraq? Pat Buchanan is an MSNBC political analyst. Patrick, it looks like this thing is unwinding exactly the way the war critics said it would. A breakup of Iraq comes with our occupation. That breakup brings in Iran. It brings in Turkey. Let's talk Turkey. What is going on that northern front?
The PKK is a terrorist organization in the Kurdish region of Turkey. They've had a peace agreement or a truce with the Turks for a number of years now, Chris, I think since about '96. However, they are now deliberately murdering Turks inside Turkey, and they're operating from Kurdistan in Iraq. They are deliberately provoking the Turks to the point where the Turks are going to have to go in the way the Israelis went in the summer of 2006. So I think you've got a probability of a Turkish invasion of Iraq, at least those portions of Kurdistan in northern Iraq. I think that's a disaster for American policy because a lot of trucks driven by Turks bring our supplies, munitions through that area, through Kurdistan, down into the south. I think that's one problem. Secondly, the President of the United States last week said it is World War III if we allow the Iranians to get the knowledge of how to build a nuclear weapon. Clearly, if they're enriching uranium, they're getting that knowledge right now. Cheney and Bush are laying down markers for themselves, which they're going to have to meet. And if the Iranians, as they're toughening their line on the nuclear issue, I don't see how we can avoid striking them, or how Bush and Cheney can avoid attacking Iran and retaining their credibility going out of office.
If Turkey attacks Iraq, does the Turkish army, such as we've trained it and equipped it, go to war with Turkey?
You mean, does the Iraqi army? Or
yes.
No, that the Iraqi army can't get up there. The Kurds will fight. And the Kurds in northern Iraq, I think if the Turks come in, they will fight with their PKK cousins. And I think that is a complete disaster for the United States, where you got our strongest ally in Iraq, our most reliable, and you got one of our strongest NATO allies. They fought with us in Korea, for heaven's sakes, fighting with each other.
Well, why didn't the Turks talk this administration, the one governing our country now that's been reelected since, out of the war with Iraq, if the Turks knew that this would bring about the fragmentation of that region?
Everybody in the Middle East knew this would be a disaster, Chris. That's why the Turks refused to allow us to let the Fourth Army attack from Turkish soil. They knew that. But you didn't. All you had to do is look at George Bush after the Axis of Evil speech to see no matter what, no matter who was with him and who was not with him, he was going to march to Baghdad and do this. He and the neoconservatives are the ones who had started this war, and frankly, the Democrats went along with it. Hillary went along with it, Edwards, Kerry, and the rest of them. Chris, the question you got to ask is the one you asked at a recent debate. Where in heaven's name is the Congress of the United States? Bush has no authority to go to war against Iran in the absence of an attack on us. They haven't attacked us, and yet he's threatening war, and Congress is paralyzed.
The people that count on the liberals to stand against this hardline foreign policy have been wrong time and time again, Pat. I agree with you completely. It's not just Hillary. It's Kerry. It's Dodd. It's Biden. It's Edwards. They all got in line in 2002 when the roll was called, who wanted to be on board with the war and who didn't, and they all got aboard. And it's so clear they're doing it again with Iran. What do you make of this Lieberman-Kyle resolution, which basically declares Iran an enemy state?
Well, Lieberman has been beating the drums for an attack on Iran since June. He has said we ought to attack the Al-Quds forces. Chris, the rationale has been changed. The weapons of, the Iranian nuclear plants weren't doing it with the American people. The argument shifted. that the Iranians are aiding Iraqis in murdering American soldiers. That strikes home with every American. Lieberman has been working that line since June.
Right. But that was also predicted. Let's look now at what Dick Cheney himself warned way back in 1994. If you take down the central government of Iraq, you can easily end up seeing pieces of Iraq fly off. Part of it the Syrians would like to have to the west. Part of the eastern Iraq the Iranians would like to claim. Fought over for 8 years. In the north, you've got the Kurds. If the Kurds spin loose and join with the Kurds in Turkey, then you've threatened the territorial integrity of Turkey. It's a quagmire. This is Dick Cheney laying out the future, which he then supported. In other words, he went to the worst case scenario on purpose. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh, but isn't that what he's done?
Dick Cheney in 1994 is one of the reasons a lot of us felt really comfortable with George Bush, who was a novice in foreign policy, clearly. That it was the Cheney who said, look, who was a prudent man like Bush's father was, who said, look, we got Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. We don't want to go to Basra. We don't want to go to Baghdad. We don't want this whole can of worms on our doorstep. But Cheney changed in the 1990s, late 1990s. He very much is influenced by the AEL, neoconservative crowd. As incidentally, Chris, they are all gravitating to Rudy. Take a look at Rudy's foreign policy team. From Podhoretz and Fromm and all the rest of them are moving there because that's their last chance to ignite another gas station.
Do you think Rudy is susceptible to the influence you say that's been so effective? I personally disagree with that. I think Dick Cheney's his own man, but Dick Cheney wanted to go to war. Obviously in the worst way this time, and I'm not so sure it was an influence question as much as it was a decision. He just had a change of heart. Do you think Rudy Giuliani has a change of heart? I mean, not a change of heart. Is he a foreign policy neoconservative, if you will, now?
I think, to be fair to Cheney, I agree with you. Cheney believes deeply that what he is doing is best for the country, and frankly, he will tell the president, smash him in Iran, even, I don't care what they call us, if he believes it's best for the country. I think Rudy Giuliani is of the same mind.
Pat, so did Curtis LeMay.
Well, look, no, I mean, they will do it. Let me tell you, I think Rudy is of the same mind, and I sure know his advisors are because they've been writing articles saying, praying for the bombing of Iran.
Yeah, I know. When you bring John Bolton in, you're asking for a bombing probably. Anyway, thank you, Pat Buchanan.